You're 40. It's Thursday evening, and you're at your kitchen table with a half-eaten dinner and an open laptop. Your phone buzzes. It's a notification that your paycheck just hit. You start doing that quiet mental math. Rent, car payments, and that credit card balance you keep meaning to kill. Here is the paradox. You aren't broke. You have a good job and a real income. Yet your bank account looks exactly the same as it did 3 years ago. At 40, doing nothing starts costing you more than you realize, but jumping into the market without a plan can be just as dangerous. Most advice is built for 25-year-olds, but that model doesn't work when you're starting now. My name is Penny. I've spent years studying the psychology of late start investing for people exactly your age. 40 isn't a slam door. It's a narrowing window. The choices you make in the next 18 months will determine if your 50s feel like freedom or a struggle. Think of it like a flight. If you miss the gate by 5 minutes, you aren't just late. You're on a different journey entirely. To show you how this works, let's look at Dana. She's 41 and earns $68,000 a year. She has 3 paths. Keep saving $200 inconsistently. Automate $600 into a smart account, or take huge risks to catch up. We will follow her story to see which path actually leads to wealth. If you're ready for an honest financial framework, hit subscribe. Let's look at the data. Most people hitting their 40s carry a secret weight. You probably think you're the only one who hasn't figured this out yet. You imagine everyone else your age is sitting on a massive pile of cash, watching their investments grow while they sleep. It feels like you missed a meeting that everyone else attended back in their 20s. But let's look at what is actually happening. According to the Federal Reserve, the middle ground savings for Americans between 35 and 44 is only about $45,000. It isn't hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's $45,000. Even more surprising is that this includes people making 6-figure salaries. High income doesn't always equal high savings. The truth is that feeling behind actually makes you part of the majority. You aren't failing. You're living through a specific set of hurdles. Between student loans that lasted way too long, wages that didn't keep up with the cost of living, and the simple fact that life gets more expensive as you get older, the deck has been stacked against early saving. These are patterns in the economy, not flaws in your character. The real divide at age 40 isn't between those who have a lot of money and those who don't. The divide is between people who react to their money and people who build a system for it. Reactive people wait until the end of the month to see what's left. Structural people decide where the money goes before they ever touch it. At this age, that simple shift from reacting to building a structure is the single biggest factor in where you land 10 years from now. It's time to stop looking backward at what you didn't do and start building the architecture that carries you forward. To understand why this choice matters so much, let's look at 2 different people. Both are 40 years old. They live in the same town and earn almost the exact same salary. If you saw them at a coffee shop, you wouldn't be able to tell their bank accounts apart. They look identical, but their internal worlds are completely different. The first person follows Path A. On the outside, everything looks great. She has a solid job, a nice home, and a car that looks sharp in the driveway. She eats out whenever she wants. But on the inside, she is running on a treadmill that never stops. Every time she gets a raise at work, that extra money disappears into new bills within a few months. She carries a quiet, constant worry that never truly goes away. She avoids looking at her bank app because the gap between where she is and where she wants to be feels too scary to face. Her choices are defensive. She is working just to protect her current lifestyle, not to build a future. Then there is Path B. On the outside, her life is a little more modest. She might drive a car that is a few years older or spend less on designer clothes. But on the inside, she breathes easily. Before she even touches her paycheck, $900 moves automatically into her investments. Because she has a buffer, an unexpected $800 repair bill doesn't ruin her month. Her brain isn't stuck in survival mode trying to make it to Friday. Instead, she is in growth mode. She makes decisions with a sense of calm confidence. The difference here isn't luck or having a bigger paycheck. It is one single choice to move money before it can be spent. At 40, this window of opportunity is wide open. But by 45, the math starts to change because there is less time for that money to grow. The math isn't trying to be mean, it's just how the physics of money works. Right now, you have the power to choose which path you are on before that window starts to close. Let's get into the 6 specific things you need to watch right now. First is the catch-up window. Many people think they can just save more later. But did you know the government actually lets you put an extra $7,500 into your 401k once you turn 50? Most people don't use this because they never built the habit in their 40s. A big report from Vanguard shows only 15% of people take advantage of this boost. If you don't start the habit now, you miss years of growth before that bonus even kicks in. However, if you have credit card debt with interest over 8%, pay that off first. That is your priority. Second, we have to talk about the order of your wins and losses. Imagine 2 people get the same average return over 20 years. If one person hits a market crash right when they need the money, they could lose almost everything. At 40, you are close enough to retirement that a bad timing event can hurt. Between 2000 and 2010, people who didn't spread out their risks lost a lot more than those who had a simple plan. If you plan to work for another 30 years, this matters less, but if you want to retire sooner, you need to be careful now. Third is the tax trap. At 40, you are likely making the most money you ever have. This puts you in a high tax bracket. Most people think they will pay fewer taxes when they retire. But that isn't always true. If you have a Roth account, you pay taxes now and nothing later. If you use a traditional account, you wait. Many retirees actually end up in higher tax brackets than they expected. If you think your income might drop soon, the traditional way is fine. But check your numbers first. Fourth is Social Security. You might think this is for old people, but the government looks at your 35 best earning years to decide your check amount. If you had years where you didn't work much in your 20s, you can replace those zeros with high earnings now. Also, waiting to claim until you are 70 instead of 62 can mean an extra $150,000 to $300,000 over your life. If you are in poor health, claiming early might make sense, but for most, waiting is the winning move. Fifth is lifestyle creep. As we make more money in our 40s, we tend to spend more. We get nicer cars and bigger houses. The problem is that this spending happens slowly and feels normal. Data shows that people in their late 30s and 40s have the biggest jumps in spending. This is where the gap between the rich and the struggling really opens up. You don't have to live like a monk, but you should set up an automatic system so your savings grow as fast as your spending. Finally, there is your identity. You might still feel like the 22-year-old who doesn't have real money. This is just a story you tell yourself. Research shows that when companies sign people up for savings accounts automatically, almost everyone stays in. It's not that they aren't smart enough to save. It's just that the friction of starting is hard. You are one automatic decision away from being an investor. Change your settings today, or the feeling will fade in a few months. Let's take a quick second to pause here. I want you to head down to the comments and share one thing with me. At 40, what is that one financial move you keep telling yourself you'll make, but you just haven't done it yet? Maybe it's finally opening that investment account you've been thinking about for years. It could be logging into your work portal to finally bump up your 401k contribution. Or maybe it's just taking 10 minutes to look at your Social Security record for the very first time to see where you actually stand. Whatever it is, drop it below. There is absolutely no judgment here. We are all just trying to navigate this together. And if this information is making sense to you and helping you see things differently, please hit that subscribe button. YouTube has a funny way of not showing you this kind of helpful content again, unless you tell the algorithm you want to see it. By subscribing, you're making sure you stay on the path we're building today. Let's go back to Dana and look at the real numbers. To understand her situation, we have to look at how she gets around. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, The average person between ages 35 and 44 spends about $940 every month on transportation. This includes things like gas, insurance, and car repairs. Dana specifically has a car payment of $520 a month. She has been trading in cars and taking on new loans since she was 28 years old. To her, this doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It just feels like a normal bill, like paying for water or electricity. But here is the math of this moment. If Dana took that same $520 and put it into a basic index fund instead of a car loan, everything would change. If she earns a standard 7% return over the next 20 years, that car payment turns into roughly $270,000 by the time she is 61. Think about that. That is over $250,000. From just one category of spending, it comes down to one simple decision made at age 40. Choosing to drive a reliable, paid-off car worth $12,000 instead of signing a new loan for a $34,000 vehicle. When I first ran these numbers, I was shocked. Dana doesn't need to be a math genius to make this work. She doesn't need to pick winning stocks or watch the news every day. She just needs to take money she is already spending and point it in a different direction. It is a single lever that she can pull right now. If she waits until she is 45 to pull that lever, the result won't be nearly as powerful. The math is clear and the opportunity is sitting right there in her driveway. So, if the math is this simple, why don't we just do it? Dana knows the answer, and deep down, you probably do too. The problem isn't that the numbers are hard to understand. The problem is how our brains work when we feel stressed. Researchers call this a scarcity mindset. It is a mental state that happens whenever you feel like you don't have enough, whether that's time, energy, or money. In simple terms, when things feel tight, your brain puts all its power into solving today's problems. It stops thinking about the future because it's too busy trying to survive the afternoon. This isn't because you are lazy or bad with money. It's actually how the human brain evolved to work. We are wired to handle the immediate threat first. The problem is that by age 40, your life is full of immediate threats. Between paying the mortgage, taking care of kids or older parents, and dealing with work stress, your brain is constantly paying a mental tax. This is why someone making $80,000 a year can feel just as stressed as someone making much less. If most of your paycheck is already promised to bills before you even get it, your brain stays in defense mode. You can't think about investing because you're too busy making sure the lights stay on. But here is the secret. Building a savings habit isn't just about the money. It's about giving your brain some breathing room. When you have a little extra money set aside, your brain finally shifts into growth mode. You start making better choices at work, in your relationships, and for your health because you aren't constantly panicking. You haven't started yet because your brain was trying to protect you from the stress of today. The best way to win this battle isn't through willpower. It's through automation. When the money moves itself, you don't have to think about it anymore. That is how you stop playing defense and finally start moving forward. Let's look at what happens when Dana builds up just $18,000 in savings. This isn't millions of dollars, and she definitely isn't ready to retire yet. But $18,000 changes her life in a way that most financial experts never talk about. First, the way her body feels starts to shift. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that money stress isn't really about how much you earn. Instead, it is about having a buffer. When Dana has that $18,000 cushion, her brain stops sensing a constant threat. This leads to better sleep, more patience with her family, and a much clearer head when making big decisions. Second, her career changes completely. I call this walk-away capital. It isn't enough to quit working forever, but it is enough that she doesn't have to say yes to a bad situation just to pay the rent. If her job becomes toxic, she has 3 months of breathing room to find something better. She can negotiate for a higher salary because she isn't desperate. This leverage is real. It is the difference between actually building a career you love and just trying to survive a job you hate. This creates a powerful loop that most people at 40 are just one step away from. Having a little extra money leads to more confidence at work. That confidence helps you find better opportunities, which usually leads to making more money. That extra income then goes right back into your savings buffer. Many people who feel stuck in their jobs and stuck with their bills are suffering from the same problem. They don't have enough of a cushion for their brain to think big. It isn't a coincidence that when you fix the money buffer, the rest of your life starts to move forward too. You are moving from a cycle of fear to a cycle of growth. Even with a good plan, there are 3 major traps that catch people in their 40s. The first is "I'll start when I have more" trap. This feels smart because you might be waiting for a raise or for a debt to be paid off. But history shows this almost always fails. As your income grows, your lifestyle usually grows with it, so you never feel like you have enough to begin. In the world of math, waiting just 1 year at age 40 can force you to work 3 to 5 extra years later to catch up. The economy is built to make you spend more as you earn more, but being normal won't make you wealthy. The second trap is taking huge risks to make up for lost time. Because you feel behind, you might want to bet everything on a risky stock or a trend. This is dangerous. If the market drops right when you are starting, you don't just lose money. You lose the precious years you need to recover. This turns a late start into a permanent loss. The third trap is the lifestyle lock. This is when your fixed bills, like a big mortgage, car payments, and dozens of small subscriptions, take up all your cash. Each bill by itself seems fine, but together they eat $800 to $1,400 a month. That could be working for you. However, there are times when you shouldn't rush into investing. If you have credit card debt with a 20% interest rate, pay that off first. Paying down high-interest debt is like getting a guaranteed 20% return on your money, which is better than what the stock market usually offers. Also, if you need cash in the next 3 years for a house or tuition, keep it in a safe bank account. You don't want to risk that money in the market right before you need to spend it. Finally, don't let the industry trick you into paying high fees for complex plans. Most people at 40 just need a simple low-cost index fund. You don't need fancy products. You just need to start. At 40, the reason to move quickly isn't about fear. It is about physics. Money growth, what we call compound interest, doesn't care about what you intended to do. It doesn't reward the people who had a great plan, but never started. It only rewards the people who actually put money to work, even if they started late or only had $200 a month to spare. The difference between starting today and starting 5 years from now is massive. If Dana starts putting away $600 a month at age 41, she ends up much better off than if she waits until 46 and tries to save $800. Putting in more money later actually gets you a smaller result. That is just how the math works. It isn't trying to be mean. It just doesn't negotiate. I want you to take one real step this week. Just pick one of these 3 things. First, you could go to the Social Security website and look at your record. It takes 15 minutes to see your earnings history and what your future checks might look like. Second, you could log into your work benefits and raise your savings by just 2%. If you haven't signed up yet, do it today at any amount you can handle. Third, you could open a simple investment account at a place like Fidelity or Vanguard and set up a small $100 monthly transfer. Don't spend weeks researching. Just pick one and get it done. I know life feels heavy right now with bills, kids, and work taking all your energy. But small changes grow just like big ones do. You don't have to fix your entire life today. You just have to make one choice that your future self will look back on as the turning point. Tell me in the comments, what is one move you would make differently if you could go back in time? I read every single one. If this helped you, hit the like button and subscribe for more advice built for your 40s. Your age isn't a warning. It is a window that is still open. Go through it.